All right, yes, we just finished up our Top 10 Right Now series where we put our powers of comparative analysis to the test and rank the top 10 players at each position for the coming season. We went through catchers this week, and it's a classic confrontation. How much do you value defense? How much offense? Posey versus Molina. It's time for digging in. First thing to recognize in making catcher rankings is just how different this position is. There's hitting and fielding, but within the fielding umbrella behind the plate, there's blocking pitches, calling pitches, framing pitches, controlling the running game. Not everything is easy to quantify, but you need to try. So here's my own top 5. This is not the Shredder. This is my top 5. I go Posey, Lucroy, Molina. That's a big 3. Then it's Russell Martin off his 400 on-base season, and then Salvador Perez, who started a total of 158 games at catcher last year, including the playoffs, and that's the most of all time. Perez is an example of the catching skills overpowering the lack of offense. So right away you can see the level of talent, very high. There were 5 catchers last year who were 4-win players, had a wins above replacement of over 4, all-star level. Tougher decisions for the rest of the top 10. Here's 6 through 10. Again, for me, not the Shredder. Devin Mesoraco was the best hitting catcher in the majors last year. Yan Gomes, a hitter on the rise. I had Carlos Ruiz, given his track record. Brian McCann, same thing, off a bad year. And then Derek Norris. The toughest omission was Matt Wieters. Dave Valley would say the same thing, I believe. We're going to talk to Dave in a second. But Wieters is coming off Tommy John surgery. We don't know when precisely he's coming back or how that elbow surgery will affect him. So back to the top now. Posey or Molina? I had Lucroy just above Molina, given Molina's injuries last year, and that he's going into his age 32 season. Molina 3 years older than Lucroy, 4 years older than Posey. But let's just narrow it down to the big 2. Let's start with hitting. Check out how special Posey really is. Over the last 3 years, he is, once you make the park adjustment, one of the top 10 hitters in baseball. He is 8th in weighted runs created plus. Up the middle, you want to call catchers and middle infielders, Posey, Cano, Tulowitzki, those are the 3 that can hit with anyone. It's very rare to find offense at those positions. Also, while Molina is absolutely the best at stopping the running game by any metric, caught stealing percentage or even attempted steals, teams don't even run on him. Remember, pitch framing is vitally important. And while Molina is good at this, Buster Posey, oh, by the way, was number 1 last year in baseball. Then Rene Rivera, Mike Zunino is up there. Lucroy, the former pitch framing champ, was 5th. It's just 1 year. But Posey was number 1. You take that into consideration. It's a tough call. But perhaps the best indicator of overall excellence at this position is WAR, wins above replacement. If WAR has a weakness, it could well be that it takes too much defense into the equation. At least that's the criticism. If that is the case, it might be. Maybe at catcher, where defense is so important, it's getting it right. Take a look. Here are the WAR leaders for the last 3 years at catcher. Seems to make sense, doesn't it? Posey is on top. Molina is second. Remember, he missed a lot of games last year with a full season. Maybe he's right there with Posey. Lucroy is right there, a rising star. Russell Martin, with his pitch framing and offensive spike, is 4th. And Perez, even with the offense lacking, makes the top 5. Quantifying catching production is very difficult. WAR, though, seems about right. All right, Dave Valley, we did the show together. Top 10 catchers. Tell us about your thinking at the top, Posey or Molina.
Well, you saw there in the clip, my most important criteria is leadership and defense. And that's why I ended up with Molina as my number 1. Brian, you mentioned that WAR was the most important calculation.
Could be.
Calculation.
Yeah.
So if Buster Posey only plays 106 games, then I've got to find somebody else to replace him. Mm-hmm. That's why I really put a lot of weight in the guys that show up. In Salvador Perez, 158 games. That's an absolutely amazing number. Molina didn't play as much because he was hurt, but his ability to play games when he's available, he does. Last year, I think he had over 135 games. Defensively, over his career, 45% caught stealing. The rest of baseball, 28%. He's just so head and shoulders above the rest that it's hard not to have him. 7 Gold Gloves, 6 All-Stars, 2 rings. Buster Posey, it's splitting an atom to me. Those 2 guys have represented the National League in the World Series the last 5 years. 3 rings for Buster, 2 for Molina. Again, I'll take them both on my team.
Who do you got?
It is kind of like those 2 and everybody else, right? I got Posey, and I agree with you on Yachty. I mean, he's the Ozzie Smith at his position. He's clearly the best defensively. But for me, the difference is you have a catcher in Buster Posey who hits in the middle of the lineup. Historically, that is so rare. He has the most starts in the 3 and 4 holes of any active catcher except Brian McCann, who's been around 4 or 5 years longer. That is so rare to have a catcher where you build your lineup around and he delivers. He hits good pitching, he hits relief pitching, right, left, doesn't matter. So for me, I'm going to go a little more offensive oriented and go Posey.
Yeah, but you're not losing defense. That's just like with Molina, can also hit. You know, that's the thing. He's number one in pitch framing. I mean,
he's not Molina defensively.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that, but it's not like he's a slouch defensively at all.
Right. What do you think, Jim?
I'm going Posey, too. I'm a big San Francisco Giant fan, so I feel like a homer. But, I mean, just look at the defense. I mean, just what he did to that staff, winning the World Series without Matt Cain and Lincecum in that pitching this year. Two huge stars. You got PV, Fogelsong, Bumgarner, obviously. But just what he did, and they won a World Series with him behind the plate, running that staff that they were just kind of missing a match in, without a doubt.
And if you look at his home road splits, and something we did on Top 10 right now, that's when you see the park effects. The guy's hitting in a pitcher's park. And when you look at his road numbers, I think he's basically a 400 on base, like 530 slugging guy. That's a star hitter, regardless of position. I think you got to take San Francisco into account.
And Brandon Belt was out, like half the year last year, so that's what they put him at first, so he didn't get a lot of starts at catcher because they wanted his bat in the lineup.
It's smart, though, too, right? No, Dave, you're right. That reduces the value from catcher a little bit, but it's smart for his overall career, isn't it?
I think for him offensively, not having to catch 135 games, his offense is going to continue to climb. But one more thing on Posey that's so special. His rookie year, he shows up and takes that team to a world championship. Talking about leadership, that has an impact. And clearly, with 3 World Series titles, 3 rings.
So you're changing your vote?
No, I'm not changing. I'm just saying.
No, you're stumping.
Making a good argument.
You can't stump for both guys, Dave. What are we doing here? Go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say that they're Giants and Posey in no hurry at all to get him out from behind the plate. Yes, maybe 30 games a year to keep the bat in the lineup, but long term, he is not going anywhere. Don't be in a hurry. He's too valuable behind the plate.